Wealth is less about money and more about mindset. It's a state of being where you value patience over gratification, clarity over confusion, and discipline over desire. When you live by these principles, riches become a natural byproduct of your character. And it's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep, grow, and protect. If you can't manage $1,000, you can't manage $10,000. The numbers change, but the habits don't. Freedom begins the moment you decide that comfort is not your highest goal. The desire for ease will always battle the discipline that breeds wealth. But it's discipline, the quiet, patient refusal to surrender to impulse, that carves out a future worth living. In the next moments, we will learn not only how to build wealth, but how to do so with freedom. Freedom from financial stress, and freedom to live life on your own terms. Most importantly, we'll discuss the mindset shift needed to stop being a slave to desire and become a master of discipline. Because wealth without discipline is fleeting, but discipline without desire is empty. When you learn to balance the two, you craft a life that is rich in more than just money. It is rich in purpose, freedom, and legacy. You know, wealth isn't something that just falls into your lap overnight. It's not the product of luck or a sudden stroke of genius. It's built one disciplined habit at a time, quietly, steadily, and often without fanfare. Think of it like planting a seed in a garden. You don't just throw the seed on the ground and expect a towering tree the next day. You water it daily, nurture the soil, remove the weeds, and give it sunlight. And over time, what started as a small seed becomes a mighty tree bearing fruit. Wealth works the same way. It grows when you commit to small, consistent, daily actions that, though seemingly insignificant in the moment, compound into massive results over time. When I began my journey, I was broke. I had no fancy degrees, no silver spoon, and very little to show for my efforts. What I did have was the determination to take control of my future by adopting disciplined habits. I started with saving just a little from what little I earned, no matter how tight things were. It wasn't the size of the amount, it was the habit of saving that mattered. That discipline taught me ownership of my finances, and more importantly, it taught me that I had the power to direct where my money would go instead of wondering where it had gone. That small step planted the seed for everything that followed. Investing was another habit I embraced early on. It wasn't about chasing big returns or risky ventures. It was about consistently putting aside a portion of what I earned and making that money work for me. The power of compound interest is often underestimated. Money invested today doesn't just sit idle. It earns money, which then earns more money, creating a snowball effect. But this magic only works if you stay the course and resist the temptation to dip into those investments prematurely. I learned to be patient, knowing that time is an ally when paired with consistency. Learning is equally vital. Wealth isn't just about dollars and cents, it's about knowledge. I made a daily habit of reading, listening, and absorbing wisdom about money, business, and personal development. Just 10 minutes a day, steadily building my understanding. Over the years, these small investments of time compounded just like my money did. The more I learned, the more opportunities I recognized, and the better decisions I made. Discipline in learning builds mental wealth, which ultimately translates to financial wealth. This idea of small habits building massive wealth is grounded in human nature. We're creatures of habit. What we do repeatedly shapes who we become. So the question isn't whether a single small saving or learning session will change your life. It's whether you make that small step a habit day after day, month after month, year after year. That's where the transformation happens. I remember working with many people who expected big results quickly. They'd try saving or investing for a month or two, and give up because they didn't see immediate returns. But wealth is not a sprint, it's a marathon. If you want to run the race well, you have to pace yourself and build endurance. Those who understand this and commit to disciplined habits are the ones who eventually cross the finish line with abundance. Discipline doesn't mean deprivation, it means prioritization. It means making choices today that your future self will thank you for. It means saying no to fleeting pleasures so you can say yes to lasting freedom. When you build disciplined habits around money, time, and learning, you create a foundation that can support a life of independence and choice. You don't have to overhaul your life in a day. Start where you are. Maybe today you decide to save a small portion of your income. Tomorrow, you spend 30 minutes reading about investing. The next day, you track your expenses to understand where your money goes. These small actions, taken consistently, compound in power. They turn into your financial strength, your peace of mind, and ultimately, your freedom. So, I challenge you to stop looking for shortcuts or quick fixes. Build wealth the way it's meant to be built, one disciplined habit at a time. Your daily choices, repeated relentlessly, will become the story of your financial success. Remember, great fortunes aren't made by giant leaps, but by steady steps taken every day. Start now. When we think about wealth, it's easy to get caught up in numbers. How much money we have in the bank, the size of our paycheck, the value of our assets. But true wealth isn't measured by digits on a screen or the possessions we accumulate. True wealth is the freedom to live life on your own terms, to decide how you spend your time, and to have control over your days. If you build your financial plan without this freedom in mind, you might end up with riches that feel more like chains, another form of slavery where your time is sold for money that never truly frees you. Early in my life, I worked hard, putting in long hours, believing that more effort and more money would automatically bring me freedom. But I learned that without control over how I spent my time, wealth was meaningless. I was earning money, but I was still a prisoner to my schedule, my job, and other people's demands. It was like having money but no life. That realization changed everything. Freedom has a way of transforming how you experience success. It allows you to wake up excited, knowing that your time is yours. It lets you spend meaningful moments with your family, pursue your passions, or simply rest without guilt. Freedom means choice. Choice to work on what you love or to step away when you need to. Without freedom, money can quickly become a golden cage. When you plan your financial journey, it's critical to think beyond just accumulating wealth. You must build for control over your life. That means designing a plan where your money works for you, not the other way around. It means creating income streams that don't demand your constant presence, building assets that generate cash flow, whether you're working or resting. It means investing not just in stocks or real estate, but in your own ability to make decisions that shape your time. I encourage you to consider the true cost of financial choices. Sure, a high-paying job might offer a hefty paycheck, but if it steals your evenings, your weekends, or your health, is it really worth it? Wealth without the freedom to enjoy it is a poor bargain. On the other hand, sometimes you have to make sacrifices in the short term to build freedom in the long term. That might mean working smarter, not harder, investing in skills, automating savings, or building side businesses that eventually free you from dependence on a single paycheck. This perspective shifts the entire way you approach money. Instead of chasing every dollar, you ask yourself, is this choice moving me closer to freedom? When you use freedom as your compass, you'll find yourself making decisions that prioritize time over toys, experiences over expenses, and flexibility over fixed routines. There's a profound psychological shift when you start valuing freedom as much as financial gain. You become less susceptible to the trap of consumerism, where more possessions only mean more obligations. You begin to seek simplicity, efficiency, and balance. You understand that the ultimate goal of wealth is not just to buy things, but to buy your life back. In my own experience, I learned to automate my finances early. I set up systems where money moved into savings and investments without me having to think about it daily. This automation was not just about discipline, it was about creating space. Space in my mind, time in my schedule, freedom in my choices, and as those investments grew, so did my ability to control how I spent my days. I also learned to build multiple streams of income. Relying on one source of money means your freedom is vulnerable. But when you have several streams, you can choose when and where to work. That freedom becomes your greatest asset. So, as you think about building wealth, don't just aim for bigger numbers. Aim for bigger freedom. Think about the life you want, the time you want, and the control you want over your daily experience. Let that vision guide your financial plan. Build systems, habits, and income sources that serve your freedom first, and riches will follow naturally. Remember, wealth without freedom is just another form of slavery. Build for your freedom, and you will have true wealth. When it comes to building lasting wealth, one of the most important truths I've come to understand is this: money should have a job. It shouldn't just sit idly in a checking account, gathering dust, or worse, slowly losing value to inflation. Your money needs to work while you sleep, so you're not trading hours for dollars every single day. True financial freedom begins when your assets generate income independently of your daily labor. Early in my own journey, I discovered the power of making money work for me. I was no longer satisfied with the idea of simply earning a paycheck and spending that same money on expenses. I wanted to create something that would grow and multiply on its own, something that would keep building even when I wasn't actively involved. That's when I started looking at real estate, businesses, stocks, and intellectual property, things that generate cash flow, appreciate over time, or create value through the efforts of others or the market itself. Real estate is a prime example. Owning rental properties means collecting income every month without having to clock in. The tenants pay the mortgage and maintenance, and you reap the benefits. But it's not just about buying property. It's about buying the right property in the right location with the right terms. One bad investment in real estate can cost you years of progress and drain your resources. The same principle applies to any asset class you choose. You must do your homework, study the market, and understand the risks involved. Businesses can also be incredible wealth builders, but they require more than just enthusiasm. They need systems, leadership, and careful management. When you own or invest in a business that runs smoothly without your constant presence, that business is working for you. You're no longer the sole source of income. Instead, you have a team, processes, and products generating revenue around the clock. But beware, emotional decisions and impulsive investments in business ventures can lead to losses. Guard your principal as if your future depends on it, because it does. Stocks, mutual funds, and other financial instruments offer another path for money to work for you. Over time, markets have rewarded those who invest with patience and discipline, but the temptation to buy high and sell low, driven by fear or greed, can wipe out years of gains. That's why understanding the fundamentals, diversifying your portfolio, and sticking to a well-thought-out plan is crucial. Don't let your emotions drive your investment decisions. Let your knowledge and strategy guide you. Intellectual property, whether it's books, patents, online courses, or creative works, can also be a powerful source of passive income. Once created, these assets continue to generate royalties, licensing fees, or sales with minimal ongoing effort. This type of income is often overlooked, but can be incredibly rewarding. It requires effort up front, but pays dividends for years to come. The key lesson here is that money alone doesn't create wealth. It's what you do with money that matters. You must put it to work in assets that generate income and appreciate over time. But never forget that one wrong decision, one impulsive investment, can erase years of progress. That's why guarding your principal, the original amount you invested, is paramount. Protect it, study relentlessly, and make thoughtful choices. When I was starting out, I remember sitting down with a mentor who said, "Treat your money like a worker you've hired. You wouldn't give your employee a task without training and clear instructions, would you? So don't throw your money into investments you don't understand." Those words stuck with me and shaped how I approached every opportunity. I committed to lifelong learning about markets, assets, and economic trends so I could make informed decisions. If you want to build wealth that lasts, make your money your employee, not your burden. Put it where it can grow, multiply, and build momentum without requiring your constant presence. But do it wisely, with discipline and caution. The journey of investing is long and full of learning curves, but the rewards, freedom, security, and legacy are worth every step. Remember, money should have a job. Give it that job, and you will wake up richer tomorrow than you were today. When we talk about wealth, we often focus on dollars and cents, on bank accounts and investments. But there's something far more precious than any amount of money, something even the richest person cannot buy more of. That something is time. Time is the ultimate currency, the foundation upon which all success, happiness, and wealth are built. You can always earn more money, but you cannot earn more time. Once a moment passes, it's gone forever. This is why I urge you to treat time as your most valuable currency, to be as careful with it as you are with your money. Think about it this way. If you have to work 3 hours to earn $50, then spending that $50 isn't just a matter of money. It's a matter of giving up 3 hours of your life. That's why every dollar spent is really a dollar's worth of time exchanged. And if you're not careful, you could be spending more than just cash. You could be spending your life. So when you make financial decisions, I encourage you to optimize for both your cash flow and your time. Ask yourself, is this purchase or investment worth the time I had to spend to earn it? Because if it's not, you might be losing more than you realize. I remember early in my life, when I was just starting out, working long hours at jobs that barely paid the bills. I'd often think about the hours spent away from family, from personal growth, from the things that really mattered. It dawned on me that I was trading my most valuable resource, my time, for just enough money to survive, but never enough to thrive. That realization changed everything. I began to look for ways to not just make money, but to reclaim my time. I looked for opportunities that allowed me to leverage my efforts, that freed me from the tyranny of the clock. This shift in mindset is critical because too often we confuse working harder and longer with real progress. True wealth is not measured by how many hours you clock in, but by how you use your time to create value, to grow, and to enjoy life. Money can buy time by outsourcing tasks, automating processes, or investing in assets that generate income without your constant involvement. When you free up your time, you can invest it in higher value activities, learning new skills, building relationships, planning your future, or simply enjoying moments with those you love. Take a moment to reflect on your daily routine. How much time do you spend on low-value activities? Could some of these tasks be delegated or automated? For example, spending hours doing chores or administrative work can be outsourced or streamlined. That might cost money up front, but if it frees up your time for skill building or strategic thinking, it's a smart investment. I've seen countless people transform their lives simply by recognizing that their time is worth more than the cost of hiring help. But it's not just about outsourcing. It's also about making smarter financial choices that respect your time. Sometimes, the cheapest option isn't the best one if it costs you more time or causes stress. Paying a little more for convenience, quality, or efficiency can actually save you precious hours and preserve your energy for what truly matters. This is what I mean when I say optimize for both time and cash flow. I recall a period when I was tempted to buy the cheapest car I could find, thinking I was saving money. But that car broke down frequently, costing me time in repairs and frustration. Eventually, I invested in a reliable vehicle that cost more up front but saved me countless hours and headaches. That choice gave me more freedom. Freedom I could spend growing my business or enjoying my family. The lesson here is that wealth is not just about the dollars in your pocket, but also about the quality of your life. So, I encourage you to become aware of this precious exchange. Time for money. When you approach your financial decisions with this awareness, you begin to see opportunities to protect your time and increase your freedom. You'll start to invest in systems, tools, and relationships that multiply both your money and your time. And in doing so, you move closer to true wealth. Remember, wealth without time is just another form of slavery. Guard your time as fiercely as you guard your money. Because when you optimize for both, you build a life of abundance, not just in wealth, but in freedom and fulfillment. Use your time wisely. It's the one thing you'll never get back. There's a truth that many overlook when chasing wealth. The speed at which you learn determines the speed at which you earn. If your knowledge grows slowly or remains stuck in the past, your financial progress will mirror that stagnation. The world moves quickly. Markets shift, industries evolve, and those who cling to old ways or outdated information find themselves left behind. That's why the ability and commitment to learn faster than you earn is a cornerstone of lasting wealth. When I first started out, I didn't have much money. But what I did have was a hunger for knowledge. I realized early on that no matter how hard I worked, if I didn't grow my understanding and skills, I would only ever earn so much. So, I made a decision to invest in myself relentlessly, reading books, attending seminars, listening to mentors, and absorbing everything I could about business, finance, and personal development. That commitment to learning was the greatest investment I ever made, far exceeding any stock or real estate purchase. Self-education compounds in a way that financial investments often cannot match. The knowledge you gain today can lead to better decisions tomorrow, which lead to more opportunities, more income, and even more learning. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Think of it as planting seeds in a fertile garden. Each idea you cultivate grows and multiplies, creating a harvest far greater than what you might expect from a single effort. Compare this to relying solely on income. If you earn $100, that's a fixed amount unless you find ways to increase it. But if you add knowledge and skill to that $100, you can leverage it, multiply it, or even create entirely new streams of income. The more you know, the more valuable you become, and the more doors open for you. In today's world, information is abundant, but wisdom is scarce. It's not enough to just read or listen. You must actively apply what you learn. For example, understanding how markets work is valuable, but putting that knowledge into practice by making informed investment decisions is what builds wealth. Similarly, learning about entrepreneurship is powerful, but taking action in building a business turns knowledge into tangible results. I've seen people with modest incomes become wealthy simply because they outlearned their peers and competitors. Conversely, I've seen those with high incomes lose their wealth because they failed to adapt and grow their knowledge. Wealth is fragile when it's built on income alone. But when built on a foundation of continuous learning, it becomes resilient and enduring. One practical habit I recommend is dedicating time daily to self-education, whether that's reading a book, listening to a podcast, or studying a course. Just 10 or 15 minutes a day compounds into hundreds of hours a year. Over time, this consistent habit creates expertise, sharpens your thinking, and equips you to spot opportunities others miss. Another key point is to stay curious and open-minded. Don't assume you know everything, or that what worked in the past will work in the future. Markets change, technologies evolve, and new ideas emerge. Those who are rigid in their thinking risk becoming obsolete. Instead, embrace change, seek new perspectives, and be willing to unlearn outdated beliefs. Learning faster than you earn also means being proactive about understanding money itself, how it moves, how it grows, and how it can work for you. Financial literacy is often overlooked, but it's essential. Know how to read financial statements, understand interest, learn about taxes, and grasp the basics of investing. This knowledge protects you from costly mistakes and empowers you to make smarter decisions. I recall a time early in my career when I stumbled into a bad investment simply because I didn't understand the details. It was a tough lesson, but it drove me to educate myself deeply on financial matters. That investment loss taught me more than any gain ever could. It made me realize that your wealth will only grow as fast as your understanding of money. So remember, your income may fluctuate, your job may change, but the knowledge you carry with you is a lasting asset. Invest in yourself daily, be a lifelong learner, and make the pursuit of knowledge your top priority. That way, your wealth will not only grow, it will evolve and endure. In the end, the most valuable assets you have isn't your paycheck, your house, or your savings. It's your mind. Feed it well, challenge it often, and watch your financial life transform beyond what you thought possible. When it comes to building lasting wealth, one of the most crucial principles is learning to reinvest your profits rather than spending them prematurely. Many people fall into the trap of enjoying the fruits of their investments too early, taking the returns as immediate income or indulging in lifestyle upgrades before their assets have had a chance to truly multiply. This is a critical mistake because it delays the moment when your investments can begin to support your life independently. Think of it like planting a tree. You don't chop it down the moment the first fruits appear. Instead, you let it grow, deepen its roots, and bear more fruit season after season. Only when the tree is mature and produces consistently do you begin to enjoy the harvest without harming the source. Similarly, your investments need time and patience to compound and become strong enough to replace your earned income. Early in my journey, I experienced the temptation to enjoy returns immediately. I remember making my first few dollars from investments and feeling the urge to upgrade my lifestyle, buying things I didn't need or spending on short-term pleasures. But what I soon realized was that this impulsive behavior kept me tethered to the cycle of needing to earn more because my assets weren't yet self-sustaining. I learned that real wealth is not measured by how much you can spend now, but by how much your investments can generate consistently without you having to touch the principal amount. This principle, the idea that your assets should work so well that they eventually pay your bills, is the foundation for financial freedom. The key is discipline. When you receive dividends, rental income, or profits from your business or investments, instead of spending those returns, reinvest them. Buy more assets, increase your holdings, or use that money to build new income streams. Over time, those reinvested profits compound and your wealth grows exponentially. I often remind people that compounding is the most powerful force in building wealth, but it only works when the returns are allowed to accumulate. Taking out your profits too soon disrupts that cycle. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes. No matter how much water you pour in, it never stays full. For example, if you invest in rental properties and immediately spend all the rental income, You never build a portfolio big enough to replace your job's paycheck. But if you reinvest that income into purchasing additional properties or paying down mortgages faster, you're growing an asset base that will one day cover all your living expenses. It's also about mindset. Instead of seeing returns as rewards to be enjoyed immediately, view them as seeds for future growth. Your goal is to reach a point where your assets generate enough passive income to fund your lifestyle. Only then have you achieved true financial independence. Guarding your principal, the original amount invested, is equally important. Protecting your initial capital means you have a foundation that can continue to generate income indefinitely. One bad decision can wipe out years of progress. So always do your research, diversify your investments, and avoid emotional decisions that jeopardize your core holdings. I've seen countless people lose everything because they chased quick gains or spent their profits recklessly. But those who exercise patience and discipline by reinvesting their returns see their wealth grow steadily and securely over time. When you reinvest consistently, you're training your money to work harder for you. It becomes a loyal employee, tirelessly growing while you focus on other aspects of your life or business. This is the real secret to wealth, the ability to create a system that generates income automatically, freeing you from the constant need to trade time for money. One practical step to implement this principle is to set up your investment accounts so that dividends or earnings are automatically reinvested. Many brokerage firms and real estate partnerships offer this option. This automation removes the temptation to spend and keeps your wealth growing without requiring constant effort. Another habit is to track your investment growth regularly. Not to obsess over short-term fluctuations, but to stay motivated and make informed decisions. When you see your portfolio grow, thanks to reinvested profits, it reinforces the value of patience and discipline. Remember, the journey to financial freedom isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. There will be moments when it's tempting to spend your returns on things that bring instant gratification. But the people who achieve lasting wealth are those who delay those impulses and let their profits build more wealth. In my own life, this approach transformed my financial landscape. I learned to say no to immediate pleasures and yes to the future I was building. Years later, that discipline meant I could live comfortably off my investments, spending time on what mattered most: my family, my passions, and my purpose. So, hold fast to this truth. Reinvest your profits until your assets can fund your life without dipping into your principal. When that moment arrives, you've crossed the threshold into true wealth, where your money works for you and you no longer work for money. You know, the most successful people I've known didn't just stumble into wealth. They were intentional about every choice they made. One of the key ways to build lasting success is by auditing your habits regularly. I'm not just talking about looking at your finances once in a while. I mean a deep, honest look at where your time, energy, and money are going every single month. This practice isn't about judgment or guilt. It's about clarity. It's about shining a light into the corners of your life so you can see what's truly helping you grow and what's holding you back. When I started my journey, I quickly realized that I couldn't afford to waste time on activities that didn't move me forward. I wasn't making enough money to play around with distractions or meaningless habits. So I began a simple routine. Every month, I would review how I spent my days, where my energy went, and how my money flowed out of my hands. It wasn't always comfortable. Sometimes I saw habits that didn't serve me. Late nights watching television, unnecessary expenses, even time spent worrying instead of acting. But that awareness was the first step toward transformation. You see, time is your most precious asset. Unlike money, you can never earn back an hour lost. So tracking your time is just as critical as tracking your finances. When you know exactly how many hours you spend on low-value activities, you can make a conscious decision to cut them out and replace them with habits that build you up. Maybe that means spending less time scrolling social media and more time reading or practicing a skill that increases your value. Maybe it means saying no to invitations that drain your energy so you can say yes to moments that inspire and energize you. The same goes for energy. Your mental and physical energy is the fuel behind every action you take. If you find yourself exhausted by the end of the day but unable to point to anything meaningful you accomplished, it's time to rethink how you're spending your energy. Sometimes it means prioritizing rest or exercise so you can show up sharper tomorrow. Other times, it means delegating tasks that drain you so you can focus on what only you can do. And of course, money deserves this kind of auditing too. When you track your expenses closely, you begin to see patterns, small leaks in your financial bucket that add up over time. Maybe it's that daily coffee run, the subscriptions you forgot to cancel, or impulse purchases that feel good in the moment but don't align with your bigger goals. By identifying these areas, you gain the power to redirect your money toward investments and savings that serve your future rather than momentary satisfaction. I encourage you to make monthly audits a non-negotiable habit. Write down how you spend your time, note where your energy goes, and list every expense without exception. Then ask yourself, what activities are adding value to my life? Which are costing me time, energy, and money without giving anything back? What small changes can I make right now that will compound over time into something significant? When you commit to this process, something powerful happens. You start to feel more control over your life. You become more intentional with your actions. Your habits begin to align with your goals instead of pulling you away from them. It's like steering a ship with a clear map instead of drifting aimlessly in the ocean. Remember, wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life where your time, energy, and resources all work together toward your vision. Auditing your habits monthly keeps you honest and focused. It turns abstract goals into concrete steps and slowly but surely builds a foundation strong enough to support whatever success you seek. This is how the ordinary become extraordinary. Not through chance, but through deliberate reflection and adjustment. Take a moment now to commit. Each month, you will audit your habits, cut what doesn't serve, and invest fully in the life you want to build. This simple discipline will change everything. You see, discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, just like a muscle. When I talk about financial discipline, I'm not asking you to make huge sacrifices all at once or live a life of deprivation. Instead, think of it as training your mind and habits to respond differently, little by little. The way you build any muscle is by starting small and gradually increasing the weight. The same goes for your ability to manage money wisely. Early in my life, I faced financial struggles that forced me to become more disciplined. But that didn't mean I suddenly became perfect overnight. It was a gradual process. The key was starting with small, manageable actions that didn't feel overwhelming. For example, I started by skipping one unnecessary purchase a week. Maybe it was a candy bar, a coffee, or a small impulse buy that didn't really serve my future. It didn't seem like much at the time. But those small acts of saying no added up over weeks and months. What's important here is to think about your financial discipline as a habit that needs consistent exercise. Just like you wouldn't expect to lift heavy weights on your first day at the gym, you can't expect to make massive financial sacrifices without practice. By starting small, you build confidence and resilience. You prove to yourself that you can delay gratification and make smarter choices. Each time you skip that purchase, you're strengthening the muscle of discipline. Over time, as your financial discipline muscle grows stronger, you'll find it easier to handle bigger challenges. You might start cutting back on more significant expenses, like dining out less often or canceling subscriptions that don't add real value. The important thing is that this process feels natural, not forced. When living below your means becomes a habit, it's no longer a burden or a restriction. It becomes a way of life that empowers you to take control of your financial future. One of the most powerful lessons I learned was that discipline is a form of freedom. Many people think discipline means sacrifice and limitation, but in reality, it's the opposite. Discipline frees you from the chaos of impulsive spending and the anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck. It's what allows you to plan ahead, save consistently, and invest wisely. When you strengthen your financial discipline muscle, you're not just saving money, you're building a foundation for lasting wealth. I remember when I first committed to this approach, it was challenging at times. There were moments when skipping a small purchase felt frustrating, or when I wanted to indulge in the comforts others seemed to enjoy. But I kept reminding myself that each small sacrifice was an investment in my future freedom. That mindset shift made all the difference. Instead of focusing on what I was giving up, I focused on what I was gaining: peace of mind, options, and the ability to say yes to opportunities that came my way. So, if you want to build wealth, don't wait for a perfect moment or a huge windfall. Start right now by treating financial discipline like a muscle. Begin small. Skip one unnecessary purchase a week. Watch how that habit grows stronger, how your ability to control your spending improves, and how your confidence builds. Before long, living below your means won't feel like a sacrifice at all. It will feel like a natural part of who you are, a person who values their future more than fleeting desires. Discipline is the bridge between your financial goals and your reality. The more you train it, the easier the journey becomes. Take that first small step today and watch how it transforms your financial life over time. Money, like a soldier, needs orders. If you just let it wander without purpose, it will get lost, wasted, or worse, spent on things that don't build your future. One of the greatest lessons I've learned about wealth is that every dollar you earn should have a job before it even arrives in your hands. You have to tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Early in my life, when money was tight and opportunities were scarce, I realized that if I didn't assign clear roles to each dollar, I'd end up broke and frustrated. It wasn't enough just to make money. I had to manage it with intention. That meant dividing my income into clear categories: money for living expenses, money for investing, money for learning and growth, and money for giving back. This simple framework gave me clarity and control. Living expenses are the necessary costs: food, shelter, bills, transportation. But these should be planned carefully and not consume more than necessary. The real power comes when you assign a portion to investing, whether that's putting money into stocks, real estate, or a business. These are dollars working for you, creating more wealth over time. The money set aside for learning is often overlooked, but it's essential. Investing in yourself through books, courses, or mentors compounds your knowledge and skills, making you more valuable and opening new doors. Finally, giving is a vital piece of this system. When you allocate money to help others, you create a cycle of abundance, and generosity enriches your spirit and often comes back to you in unexpected ways. I remember when I first started practicing this method. It was challenging. Sometimes I wanted to spend all I had on immediate needs or desires. But by committing to this structure, I found discipline. I had a plan. I knew exactly how much to spend and where to put the rest. This gave me peace of mind and a sense of progress. I wasn't just surviving, I was building. Assigning every dollar a purpose also prevents the common trap of money slipping through your fingers unnoticed. When you know where your money is going, you stop making impulsive purchases or vague decisions. You develop respect for your finances and yourself. It's like having a blueprint for your financial house. Without it, you're just piling bricks randomly and hoping it stands. Another benefit of this approach is that it cultivates balance. You aren't just focused on today's expenses or tomorrow's investments. You're caring for your present needs, future growth, personal development, and the community around you. This balanced mindset keeps you grounded and motivated. To put this into practice, start by tracking your income and expenses. Before you get paid, decide how much will go to each category. Maybe 50% for living, 20% for investing, 15% for learning, and 15% for giving, adjusted to your situation and goals. The key is that every dollar has a home and a mission. When you do this, you transform your relationship with money. It stops being something to spend carelessly and becomes a tool to shape your life intentionally. Each dollar is like a soldier marching towards your financial freedom, your growth, and your legacy. Remember, money without a purpose drifts. Money with a job builds empires. So, assign every dollar you earn a clear job before it even hits your hands, and watch your wealth grow with direction and discipline. Surrounding yourself with the right people is one of the most powerful, yet often overlooked, secrets to financial success. The company you keep will shape your mindset, habits, and ultimately your destiny. I've seen it countless times. When you immerse yourself in a circle of financially disciplined individuals, people who respect money, value investing, and pursue growth relentlessly, you absorb their mindset and it becomes your own. Early in my journey, I wasn't always surrounded by people who thought about money the way I did. I was surrounded by well-meaning friends and family who often lived paycheck to paycheck or saw money as something to be spent as soon as it arrived. At first, I struggled to stay disciplined because their habits pulled me in different directions. But once I sought out mentors, peers, and communities who prioritized financial responsibility, everything changed. These people weren't necessarily richer or more educated. They were simply committed to managing their money wisely, investing consistently, and learning continuously. Their mindset was rooted in patience, discipline, and long-term thinking. When you spend time with such individuals, you start to think like them. Their conversations, their goals, and their strategies begin to influence your own actions. You start seeing money as a tool to build freedom rather than a reward to be spent recklessly. I remember sitting in small groups with people who shared their investment experiences, their setbacks, and their victories. Those discussions taught me more than any book or seminar. They sparked ideas, challenged my assumptions, and pushed me to be better. Over time, I found that my habits grew stronger, my goals clearer, and my confidence in managing money deepened, all because of the environment I chose to be part of. Building a network of financially disciplined people is more than just seeking advice. It's about creating an ecosystem that supports your growth. When you fall off track or face challenges, these people hold you accountable. When you make progress, they celebrate and motivate you to keep going. This mutual support system is invaluable. If you want to cultivate this network, start by identifying those around you who embody the qualities you want. Attend local business groups, investment clubs, or educational workshops. Engage in online communities dedicated to financial literacy and personal growth. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions or share your own journey. People are often eager to help others who show genuine interest. Remember, the mindset of wealth is contagious. Just as negativity or scarcity can drag you down, the discipline, optimism, and vision of financially responsible people will lift you up. The environment you create is the soil where your financial habits grow. Choose it wisely. Ultimately, your financial future is a reflection of the people you surround yourself with. If you want to build lasting wealth, don't just focus on what you learn or earn. Focus on who you learn from and who you share your journey with. Their mindset will become your mindset, and their success will fuel your own. So, seek out those who think like the 3%, who understand the value of money management, investing, and continuous growth. Spend your time with them, absorb their wisdom, and let their discipline inspire you to rise. Wealth is as much about who you walk with as it is about the steps you take. Debt is a double-edged sword. It can either be a powerful tool to build your wealth or a heavy burden that drags you down. The difference lies in how you use it. Borrowing money isn't inherently bad. What matters is what you do with that borrowed money. If you borrow to invest in assets that generate income or appreciate in value, debt can work for you. But if you borrow for liabilities, things that lose value, or simply consume your cash flow, then debt becomes a trap that slows your progress. I've seen many people fall into the debt trap early in their financial journey. They take out loans or use credit cards to buy cars that depreciate the moment they leave the lot, or to fund lifestyles that don't match their income. This kind of debt creates a cycle of payments and interest that consumes their future earnings. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much money comes in, it keeps slipping away. On the other hand, borrowing to acquire assets can be a smart strategy. For example, taking a loan to buy a rental property can generate monthly rental income, and over time, the property itself may appreciate. Business loans can provide capital to start or grow a venture that produces profits. Even borrowing for education, if it leads to skills and knowledge that increase your earning power, can be a worthwhile investment. In these cases, debt becomes a tool that helps you build wealth rather than destroy it. From my own experience, I learned this lesson the hard way. Early in my career, I once took on debt without fully understanding its impact. I bought things that looked good in the moment but didn't contribute to my financial future. The payments were a constant strain, and I realized that no matter how hard I worked, I was just keeping up instead of moving forward. That was a turning point. I shifted my focus to borrowing only for things that would put money in my pocket or increase in value. That change in mindset made all the difference. Using debt wisely requires discipline and a clear plan. Before borrowing, ask yourself, will this investment generate income or appreciate? Can I comfortably handle the payments without sacrificing other financial goals? What's the risk if things don't go as planned? Avoiding emotional decisions is critical here. Debt taken on impulse or for status symbols almost always leads to trouble. Also, keep in mind that debt isn't the only way to acquire assets. Building wealth slowly through consistent saving and investing can sometimes be safer and more sustainable. But when you do decide to borrow, treat it like a strategic move in your financial plan, not a shortcut or a means to keep up appearances. Ultimately, debt is a tool, neither good nor bad on its own, but its effect depends on your choices. Use it to build income streams, to leverage opportunities that increase your net worth, and to accelerate your path to freedom. Avoid borrowing for things that only drain your resources and keep you trapped in the cycle of working for others. Wise use of debt is a hallmark of those who think like the wealthy. It's about control, purpose, and long-term vision, not short-term gratification. When you learn to wield debt as a tool for growth rather than a source of stress, you unlock a powerful force on your journey to financial independence. Remember, the goal is to have your money work for you, not to work for your money paying off debts that don't pay you back. Earning money is essential, but it's only the first step on the path to true wealth. The real secret lies in learning how to multiply what you earn, to make each dollar work for you and generate more income over time. It's not about how much you bring in, but what that money can do once you put it to work. This is the difference between working for money and having money work for you. Early on, I realized that simply trading my time for dollars had its limits. No matter how many hours I worked, there was only so much income I could generate in a day. The clock was a harsh master, and my earnings were capped by the number of hours I could spend. To break free from this constraint, I had to understand the power of multiplying money, making it grow independently, even when I wasn't actively working. Think about planting a seed. You don't just dig a hole and drop a seed in the ground. You nurture it, water it, and give it sunlight so it can grow into a tree that produces fruit for years to come. Money works the same way. If you save and invest wisely, your money begins to generate returns. Those returns, when reinvested, produce even more returns. This process, called compounding, is the cornerstone of wealth multiplication. But it's not just about putting money in a savings account and hoping it grows. You must learn to direct your dollars into investments that generate income, whether that's dividends from stocks, rental income from property, profits from a business, or royalties from intellectual property. These assets create streams of cash flow that keep multiplying your initial investment. The key is to educate yourself about different opportunities and to choose those that align with your goals and risk tolerance. In my own journey, I started small, investing modest amounts where I could. Over time, as my knowledge and confidence grew, I diversified into various assets that worked while I focused on other parts of my life. This wasn't about chasing quick riches or risky schemes. It was about steady, consistent actions that allowed my money to grow safely and reliably. I learned that patience and discipline are critical when multiplying money. It's also crucial to distinguish between spending money on consumption versus investment. Every dollar spent on a depreciating asset or a fleeting pleasure is a dollar that doesn't have the chance to multiply.